We are in our third lesson here on multiplying and dividing real numbers. Again, an important distinction, but all the numbers for this class will be real. So we're going to be multiplying and dividing these real numbers today. Rules for multiplying and dividing. Much less complicated than adding or subtracting, I guess. For multiplying and dividing, if they have the same sign, both positive and negative, answer is positive. If they have different signs, one positive, one negative, the answer is always negative. So much easier to remember. However, confusing them with the addition rules is the hardest thing. So be very careful that you're not mixing and matching your rules. For multiplication and division, same sign, positive. For multiplication and division, different signs, negative. Be very careful to not mix that up with your addition rules. We're going to look at some examples here. So we're looking at fractions. Fractions are real numbers. They're really real. So we're multiplying fractions. Remember that when you're multiplying, you do not need common denominators. You can, but it's kind of a waste of your time. You don't need them. We're just looking at splitting things up a little bit more, and so we just need to have any denominator. They don't need to be common. And so we're going to multiply the numerators together. 2 times 6 is going to give us 12, and we're going to multiply the denominators together. 5 times 7, 35. We need to make sure that we look. Both of those numbers are positive, which means the answer will be positive. Can we reduce it? 12 and 35, we can't divide them both by 2, can't divide them both by 3, 5, 10, 7, 8. So that is reduced. We have our simplified answer, 12/35. Next one we've got 7/8 times 9/23. So again, I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply the numerators together. 7 times 9 is going to give me 63. 8 times 23 is going to give me 184. Double check my mental math here. Yes, 184. And so when we're looking at that's a little harder to figure out if we can divide them both by the same thing. But for reducing, we are going to end up, in this case, being simplified. We can't divide both 184 and 63 by the same number. And we look again. Both of the numbers are positive, which means our solution is going to be positive. Same sign, positive. And the last one here on this page, we've got 4/7 times 5/12. I'm going to multiply straight across again. I'm going to multiply the numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. Do not cross multiply. Cross multiplying is with proportions. We'll get to that later in chapter 2. And so we're just going to multiply the numerators together. We're going to get 20. We're going to multiply the denominators together, and we're going to get 84. We can reduce this. They are both positive numbers, 4/7 and 5/12, which means the answer is still positive. We can reduce this. We can divide them both by 2. We can divide them both by 4. And I think that's about it. Since I can divide them both by 2, and I can divide both these numbers by 4, I'm going to choose the larger one. I'm going to choose the greatest common divisor, and I'm going to divide them both by 4. And I'm going to get 20 divided by 4 is 5, and 84 divided by 4 is 21. And we got 5/21 as our final answer. There is another way to do this. There is another way to multiply these numbers together and reduce. You'll notice that I multiplied first, then I reduced. You can flip the order. Another way to do it, I'm going to rewrite the numbers down here. So we have 4/7 times 5/12. You can do what's called cross-simplifying. Cross-simplifying is saying, well, if I cover up the 7 and the 5, which you can't see my hands doing it, but cover up the 7 and the 5, then we're looking only at the 4 and the 12. If you can divide both 4 and 12 by the same thing, which we can in this case, we can divide 4 by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And we can divide 12 by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we've done some cross-simplifying. We do the same thing with the 5 and the 7. If I look at just the 5 and the 7, can I divide both 5 and 7 by the same thing? No. Those are both prime numbers. We can't divide it any further. And so I can't do any cross-simplifying with those. Now if I multiply, 1 times 5 is 5. 7 times 3, 21. I have my same simplified answer of 5/21. Neither one is faster, neither one is easier. It depends on what you're most comfortable with. You still have to multiply. You still have to reduce. It just depends on what order you want to do it. Both ways are correct as long as you show me some work. So what I've shown here is the exact amount of work that I need to see to get full points. So I need to see the work that you're doing, either multiplying and then reducing, or reducing then multiplying. Okay, multiplication with decimals. Hey, there's Shaggy. Shaggy is scared. We're going to get rid of him now, though, because we don't need a scaredy cat working with these decimals. And so we've got our decimal problems here. Try this on your own. Be careful of those negatives, and we'll come back to it in a second. Division, dividing with fractions. Division with fractions is one extra step on top of multiplication. To divide with fractions, we're going to take the reciprocal of the second number. So we're going to take that second number, 6/7 in this case, we're going to take the reciprocal. You're not going to need to memorize that name. However, you do need to know how to do it. And so the reciprocal is when you flip it over and you make it 6/7. This does not make it positive or negative. It doesn't change that. It just flips the sign. Or excuse me, it flips the number over. It's called the reciprocal. First number stays the same. We change it to multiplication, and we take the reciprocal of the last number, but we do not make it positive or negative. We just leave it alone. Now I can multiply. Now I'm going to do some cross multiplication, or cross reducing, excuse me. I see that 5 and 7 can't do any cross reducing there. They're both prime. However, 2 and 6, I can divide both 2 and 6 by the same number. I can divide 2 by 2 and get 1, divide 6 by 2 and get 3. So now when I multiply to get my final answer, 1 times 7 is 7, 5 times 3 is 15. I have a reduced answer. Both of these numbers were positive, which means that if they have the same sign, it's a positive answer in the end. Pause it, try these next two on your own. And soon you've tried them, so we're going to go through these. Again, before I do any cross simplifying, I have to flip them over. And so I'm going to take that second fraction, and I'm going to take the reciprocal. If you want to know why this works, why we can do this and actually have it make a correct answer, I will explain it in class if you ask. I'm not going to do it here, though. But there is a very good reason of why that works. Now, if I look, I don't think I can do any cross simplifying with this one. 7 and 9. Nope, 7 is prime. I can't divide 9 by 7. 23 and 8, not quite. If it was a 24, I could. So I multiply. 7 times 23, 161, I believe. Yep, 161. 8 times 9 is going to give me 72. Now, I can't reduce this. However, it's not simplified. We've got an improper fraction. So I have to figure out how many times is 72 going to 161. Okay, so if I'm looking, well, I'm just going to do a little scratch work over here. 161 divided by 72, because remember, a fraction is just division. It's the numerator divided by the denominator. That's where we get that divide sign. And so I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide 61 divided by 72, or 161 divided by 72, excuse me. And I believe that can go in there twice. Let's give it a shot. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 7 is 14. And if I subtract, I should get what? 17, I believe. And so when I subtract 17, that's less than 72, which means I have a remainder of 17. However, we're not going to write remainders. We're a little bit more advanced than that now. We're no longer going to do remainders. That remainder is 17/72 left over. So we've got 2 and 17/72. That is our final answer then. I'm going to double check. I can't reduce that any further. 17 is prime. And I looked, both the original numbers, 7/8 and 9/23, were positive. And so if they have the same sign, my answer is also going to be positive. The last one, again, I'm going to take the reciprocal of the second number. I've got 12/5, and I'm going to make this a multiplication, and I leave the first number alone, 4/7. I can't do any cross simplifying, so I'm just going to multiply straight across. 4 times 12 is going to give me 48, and 7 times 5 is going to give me 35. This is improper. I'm going to have to divide. 48 divided by 35. 35 only goes into 48 once. They're pretty close together. And so when I subtract, I'm going to get 13 left over. Again, my remainder of 13 I can write as a fraction, 1 and 13/35. 13 is prime, which means we can't reduce that any further. 1 and 13/35. Again, both of my original numbers were positive numbers, and so if they're the same sign, the answer is positive. Last little bit here, we're going to do some division with decimals. So I'm going to have you take a minute. I'm going to have you try these on your own, and then we'll try them together.